Today in this video, I want to talk about how our ego can find ways to interrupt our enlightenment. Of course, there's the sought after, glamorous ego death, but what I want to talk about, in particular, is how to catch your ego before it traps you. There's a simple strength in awareness, and that is the antidote to the ego. Of course, this might sound as a surprise, considering that you create your own reality is not only a hallmark phrase of the spiritual and self-help communities, but it actually has been proven to be true. The ego will claim that it is a self-generated talent, and even if others share the gift, it is thought to be unique to oneself. This is a trap that you can find yourself in. It will feel as if no other person has the ability to do things right, and that is why you must burden yourself with every task. One of the most important spiritual steps that anyone can take is from out of the shadows of victimhood by recognizing their own power. For most people in the spiritual community, this is a common first step that leads people on the path to enlightenment. From this, it can be understood that our minds are powerful and even create reality. But this is where the ego can become a trap. In essence, the idea of single-handedly creating your own reality induces a desire to become completely self-reliant and only trusting of oneself. Our ego uses the evidence of you create your own reality to highlight the idea that everyone else will fail you. There is a difference in the message that the ego gives you and the message that actually vibrates with your soul. They are not two separate messages. In reality, they are one. The ego pushes each message around itself, essentially only believing in itself and its abilities. For example, the ego could say, I have to love myself because I am the only one that can do it, whereas the soul would say something along the lines of, I must start with loving myself because loving myself will vibrate more love into my life in different forms. There's a clear distinction in the energies there. Although it might seem like a separate mindset, in truth, the ego is just another perspective to view the world through. Individualism and the empowerment of the self seems to be the complete opposite of the spiritual teaching of interdependency and oneness. But upon further inspection, you can see that they are the same as well. All of our individual minds, living in our own subjective realities, all live in an interdependent universe. For most of us, to find our true selves, we must focus on the self. This leads us on the path of our own desires and happiness. And the lesson learned from following the self is that everything is an extension of oneness. With that being said, it is impossible to be independent or dependent in a universe that is all one. We are all dependent on different things, and many of those things we share in common with all other people and living creatures. So how can we have personal creations if we are all dependent on something? Because our creations are built to be what we are dependent on. The power that we all possess is knowing our own power in detail. Oneness is reflected in all things. In a symbiotic relationship, two different species form a relationship with each other for the betterment of both. This is called a mutualistic relationship. It's where both parties win. There's an interdependency and an independence for both members of the relationship. We create what we are dependent on. It gets to be our choice, but we are simultaneously dependent on something, and that creates unification within the universe. Independence is ego, and it is much different from self-empowerment. The enlightened, healthy mind knows that there is a big difference between self-empowering tendencies and the truth wrapped up in the ego's grasp. It is impossible to be separate from oneness, but it is possible to have your own experiences, thoughts, and ideas, which are all a product of your environment and reality. Again, it's a subjective reality that is aligned with your own perspectives. With that being said, there is no ego to truly worry about or ego death to construct. Instead, there is the truth that is left over, that we are all one, we are all independent, but we live in a world where others' thoughts, ideas, and feelings can affect us as well. Think of perspective as a tool. Think of your own thoughts, ideas, and environments as a tool that can be used to expand your mind. Contrast is needed to identify truths and constantly explore yourself and the reality that you're in. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments about ego and what it means, please leave it in the comment section below.